It's been a while. It's been more than 6 months since the last time I did a live as part of the Nico Lagan show. And I got to say, I'm fucking excited about this. It's really, really good to be back. So get your comments ready because the show starts now.
This is the Nico Lagan Show. Warning. Warning. This show contains explicit content. Listener discretion is advised. Real, raw, and shooting you straight. This is the Nico Lagan Show. And now your host, Nico.
This episode of the Nico Lagan Show is brought to you by the Alpha Creator Blueprint. Are you a male content creator looking to level up your social media game? Do you want to get millions of views every month just like I do? If so, make sure to go check out tacblueprint.com and find out how. Like always, I want to hear from you guys. So this is why this show is live. This is why we're doing it in this format on 7 different platforms right now. Make sure to ask me questions. There's no taboos here. Anything you want to say, you want me to answer, feel free to ask. That's why we're here. I got to say that for a first live in 6 months, it's hard for me to believe that I'm going to be speaking about what I'm going to be speaking right now. Caitlin Clark. Everybody's heard of her. She was the number 1 pick in the WNBA. She was picked on Monday. The most exciting girl in the WNBA, it seems like right now. It's a good thing, right? It's a good thing. But what's interesting is that fans, and I'm going to put it in quotation, fans are outraged by her salary. They can't believe that she is only making $76,535 for the next 4 years. So that's per year. It's over 300 grand. But people are outraged that she's not making more money than that. They're especially outraged by the fact that the number 1 pick in the NBA, and I apologize if I bastardize his name, Victor Wembanyama, because he just signed a $55 million contract over the next 4 years. So same time period, she's making 300 grand. He's going to be making 55 mil. It's insane. That amount of money is hard to comprehend, but man, that's a shit ton of money. But this is the outrage. People think that men and women in sports should be making the same salary. Does that sound fair? On paper, it sounds fair, right? If you're going to do something, you should be paid the same salary as somebody that does your job, right? Wrong. Wrong. And here's why. I made a video this year I made a video this week where I was talking exactly about that. And I went even further. I actually said that Caitlin Clark and all the players in the WNBA should be grateful to even have a job. Forget the outrage that she's making $76,000 a year. She should be grateful to have a job. And I'm not saying she is, but I'm talking to the people out there that are outraged. She should be grateful to even have a job because of one simple fact. Since 1996, that's when the WNBA was first created, they have not made $1 of profit. Not $1. That's 28 years since they've been created, and they have yet to turn the profit. Actually, they're losing, on average, $10 million a year. Quick math for you. 28 years at 10 million a year. 28 years in operation at 10 million a year. That's $280 million that they've lost. It's absolutely insane to believe that they're still in business. You might be wondering why, and this is the point of contention that was pissing off people this week, because I've commented on this for a good portion of the week, and people are astounded. They're calling me sexist for saying that. Only reason the WNBA is still in business is because the NBA is subsidizing them. They've been paying, on average, $15 million a year to keep the WNBA operating. Is that sexist for me to say? No, it's not. It's a fact. If your feelings don't like facts, that's on you. You're the issue, not me. I'm just reporting facts. And without the NBA, the WNBA wouldn't exist. So they need to be grateful. That's number one. Number two, let's address another comment that I've seen all over the place this week where people are saying, oh, yeah, but the WNBA hasn't been in operation for that long. It takes time for a company to make money. You know what? As an entrepreneur, I can tell you that you're right. It does take a few years in order to make money. Actually, turns out that it takes 2 to 3 years for a brand new company to turn a profit. 28 years, though. Does that make any sense to you? That after 28 years, they're still in operation. Not only are they in operation because they're being subsidized, but people are complaining. I'm not saying that Caitlyn is, because I could not find one piece of content where she was complaining about her salary. But fans, and I air quote fans because all those fans don't even seem to like basketball. They just like to complain, and they see misogyny everywhere where it does not exist. It's actually pretty ironic that people talk about misogyny and sexism when it comes to the WNBA and the NBA, while the only reason that they exist is because the NBA is actually subsidizing it. So I'm not sure if they understand the irony here, but it is absolutely hilarious. Point being, 2 to 3 years for a company to turn a profit. 28 years later, they're still not making money. The NBA itself was created in 1946. Took them 3 years. By 1949, so 3 years later, they were turning a profit. So they're bang on the average that I just stated. So let's be real here. 28 years to turn a profit. They're still in operation. Can you name me one other company out there that would still be in operation after 28 years? One. I challenge you, just one. Just show me one company that is still in operation after 28 years of losing money. It doesn't exist. And the worst part is not only are they losing money and $10 million a year, their attendance has been going down. Ever since they started in 1996, you saw a small spike, but since 1998, their attendance has been going down and down and down and down. In 1998, that was the highest attendance that they've ever had. They had an average of 10,869 people at every games. Last year, you want to know how much they had? 6,615. So 6,615. That's down more than 4,000 people on average in attendance since 1998. Like it's insane that they're still in operation because they're not doing well. Like if you look at the numbers, they're losing 10 million on average a year, which last year they lost 12. Their attendance is down, and that's been going down since 1998. I wouldn't be surprised if some people on this live right now weren't even born. That's insane. So for all the comments that I've seen, for everything that I've said this week, it sounds negative, but I'm just reporting facts here. But I want to say this. I want to make sure we're on the same page here. I hope Caitlyn going to the WNBA will help. I hope it does. I really hope that her being part of the WNBA and having all the hype behind her right now, that she will help the league grow. At least temporarily right now, we're seeing it. It's working. And only time will say if that's going to stick, if we will see that in the long run. But I really hope it happens. I'm not one of those that, I'll be, I'm not a fan of the WNBA. I don't find it interesting. I don't find it entertaining at all. But I'm not saying they should suffer. I'm not saying they shouldn't have a sport. Who am I to say, to decide what's good, what's not? If people want to see it, awesome. I hope it's there. And this is where I want to address all the social media warriors out there that are complaining about the fact that women in sports, especially the WNBA, are making a lot less money than the men in the NBA. I got a suggestion for all you social warriors out there. Instead of complaining and flapping your mouth and putting negative comments out there, how about you do put your money where your mouth is and start attending the game, start buying tickets, start buying season tickets, start buying players' merchandise. Because at the end of the day, the truth and the matter is that if you want them to make more money, you're going to have to give it to them. Your money needs to be in their pockets. So if you want women to make more money in sports, you'll need to encourage them. That is how every single sport works out there. The money is based on the amount of, the money is made on the amount of people that spend money on them. That's it. It's really just that simple. There's nothing complicated about it. There is nothing special about this. It is all about how much people are ready to spend on the athletes, on the leagues, on attending. So instead of complaining, spend your money where your mouth is. That's simple. Now, there's another thing this week that I posted about, and it got quite a good reaction, and I understand why. And this is a subject that I want to get into more in the future. This is definitely something I'm going to be speaking about more and more. And the reason is simple. I want to speak about this because temporarily right now I'm back in Canada, and I want Americans. This part of the show is really meant as a warning for the Americans out there. What was the video I posted? Posted a video about Bill Maher. Not a big fan of the guy. He is way too liberal for my taste, but you know what? When somebody is right, he's right. No matter who he is, if somebody's right, he's right. And that's why I posted the video. Basically, in the video, Bill Maher was talking to the woke liberals out there. Because a lot of liberal in the US believe that Canada is this paradise where everything's free, everything is awesome, there's no guns, there's free healthcare, everything's free. Yet, they have no idea what they're talking about, because the truth of the matter is that nothing's free in life. There's a cost to everything. Everything costs something. Do you want to have something for free? Guess what? There's somebody paying. It might not be you, but somebody out there is paying for you. Nothing's free. And here's what the video was talking about. The video was explaining how over the last year, Canada's received more than 1.3 million migrants. For the US, for the Americans out there, that would be the equivalent of you receiving 11 million people last year. Unfortunately, Canada is now experiencing a house crisis that is worse than the one the Americans are experiencing. The median price of a house in the US is $346,000. But in Canada, when you do the translation from Canada to American, we're talking about $487,000. 487,000 American dollars is the median price for a house in Canada. The average debt to income ratio in Canada is just under 185%. What does that mean? That means that for every dollar a Canadian makes, they're spending $1.85. Doesn't make any sense, right? That means they're living off credit cards. This is pretty much what that means. So every Canadian, on average, Canadian are spending almost twice as much as they're making. Now, let's talk about the beautiful free, and again, I'm gonna air quote this, the free healthcare system that every American communist and woke liberal won't stop talking about and asking for the US. Guess what? It ain't free. On average, Canada spends 13% of its economy on healthcare. That's about $340 billion every year. To you guys, considering that you have budgets in the trillions, this might not sound like a lot of money. That's because you're probably forgetting that Canada does not have as many people, as many citizens as the US. It only has 39 million people. That's the equivalent of California. Yet, Canada currently spends $8,563 per person on the healthcare. That's a lot of money. Take the amount of citizens in the US and do a quick times 9. That's 9,000. That's going to give you an idea of the equivalent in the US. And the worst part is, one would expect that spending that much money, spending $300 or almost $9,000 per person on the healthcare every year, we Canadians, or the people in Canada, would have a great healthcare system, a great free healthcare system, right? Wrong. Again, wrong. It is not good. Seeing a doctor right now in Canada, on average, takes 27 weeks. 27 weeks. That's if you have a family doctor. That means if you're registered with a doctor and you're part of their list. So they know who you are. But it gets worse because 27 weeks is not worse enough, right? It gets worse. Turns out that 6.5 million Canadians don't even have a family doctor. That's 1 out of 6 Canadians does not have a family doctor. So what do they do in order to get healthcare? Well, they need to go to the emergency room. At least they're in the emergency room, right? People can go to the hospital. Well, emergency is probably not even a word that should be used in the same sentence as the Canadian healthcare. Because right now, on average, throughout Canada, patients can expect to wait 22 hours for a bed. You're not cured. You haven't necessarily seen the doctors that you need to see. You've just been admitted and you have a spot in the hospital. But it turns out that people are dying waiting for a hospital bed. How fucked up is that? That people are literally dying waiting for a bed. Not to see the doctor, for a bed. So imagine that your emergency is not necessarily an emergency. That you haven't been shot, or you haven't been stabbed, or you're not having a heart attack. That you're just, you know what? You're uncomfortable. There's something wrong. You broke a bone. Like me. I've broken a lot of bones in my life because of martial arts. So let's say I broke a bone. Can you imagine waiting more than 22 hours in an emergency room to get something not fixed, to see someone? That's just insane, because the way it normally works is that you're going to go in, you're going to see a nurse, they're going to do a triage, they're going to assign you a number to say this is the emergency level of that person, then you're part of a list. And when they finally call you, you see someone. If that someone is a doctor, needs to see, okay, maybe your arm's broken. We're gonna do an X-ray. Then you need to do an X-ray. Then you need to wait to have somebody available or a spot to get an X-ray. And then once that's done, you need that they're gonna give that X-ray back to the original doctor so that they can look at it and then tell you what's wrong with it. And then once they actually saw what's wrong with it, they're gonna send you to somewhere else to get it fixed. This is insane. You're not fixed within 22 hours. You really just got a bed, which you're admitted, you're past the emergency room. That is what a free healthcare in Canada is. It's not the paradise. It's not the beautiful thing that you're being sold in the US. It's not. To a point where years ago, Canada started a private system. So it's not the government that's responsible for it, but Canadians that have money or have insurance or yeah, mostly has the money can see can go to private clinics to go to the doctors and pay out of pocket. So that means that on one end, you're getting you have to pay taxes on the healthcare, but then you need to pay out of pocket to go see a doctor because the waiting time is so incredibly long. That is a free healthcare for you. So the moral of the story here is pretty simple. There's no such thing as free. Everything has a cost. You might not pay it yourself or right now, but at one point somebody does. And guess what? It's going to bite you in the ass. We're seeing it in Canada right now. So believe me when I tell you, as a born Canadian, this should be a wake up call. And you know, we're running out of time. We're 23 minutes in, but all to say that Canada is not the woke liberal paradise that they imagine. It's not. Nothing is free. We're losing our gun rights. We don't have a functional free healthcare system. We have a moron that is running the country. You think that California is crazy? I like to say to people that Canada is 5 years ahead of California. We're worse. We're worse than you guys and California. How insane is that? So that's how crazy Canada is. And the whole point of the Bill Maher video was to say there is something that happens when a society goes woke. They push everybody in the middle right. And I don't know if you know about the bell curve, but basically the bell curve shows where the average person stands on issues, opinions, and turns out that on average, people are 65 to 70% somewhere in the middle. So remove the 10% on each end because there's always 10% on the far right and on the far left. That's left about 80%. 65 to 70% is right bang in the middle. So there's outliers, right? But this is where we stand. Most of us, if you're anything like me, you stand somewhere in the middle. So you're part of that 65, 70%, which is most of the people. Keep that in mind. This is how scary what's happening right now is. And you guys are lucky because you get to see what happens when you go too far left. When you convince people that everything's free, when you convince people that all they have to do is to rely on the government, guess what? That money comes from somewhere. And Canada is starting to show it. So this is a massive warning sign for you guys. This is exactly why I wanted to talk. This is why I'm not surprised that video did well this week. This is exactly why Bill Maher's talking about it. And this is exactly why I wanted to talk about it today, because this is a warning sign for you guys. I'm temporarily back in Montreal as we apply, my girlfriend and I, for visas to go live in the US. But this is the sad reality. And don't even get me started on gas prices over here on the price. You think food is expensive in the US? Bro, Canada is insane. Absolutely fucking insane. So, warning sign for you guys. If you're not happy about what's going on in the US right now, do something about it. Ask yourself this very, very simple question: how can I make my country better? This is the question every single American listening to this should be asking themselves. How can I make this place better? Because it's not going to fix itself, and and your country needs you. As simple as that. Your country needs you, and if you want something to change, it's up to you. It's 100% up to you. I don't want to sound like a pessimist. I can't finish this show on this because this is way too depressing. But it's a good thing because I know you guys are like me. You want to speak up, you want to stand up, you want to say the right things, you want to be inspiration for others out there. And this, guys, this is why I do what I do. I quit my corporate job in order to be able, I was a sales engineer by trade. I quit my very high paying job in order to be able to speak about this stuff. So if you believe in the same things I do the same. I'm not saying you should quit your job, but at least speak about it. Have the balls to speak about what I'm talking about. If you know this is true, speak about it and be the change that you want to see in the world, because nothing is going to change unless we do something about it. So let's finish on a high note. Let's finish with one of my favorite person right now, somebody called Mark Coleman. I'm not sure that you're aware who this guy is. If you're not, I'm going to talk about him. Mark Coleman is an old UFC fighter. He used to fight back in the days. Heavyweight, used to be a beast. But turns out last month, Mark was sleeping. He got woken up by his dog. House was on fire. His dog woke him up. He was able to save both of his parents. So took one of his parents, brought him outside, came back, took the other parent, brought him outside. Then Mark, because he's absolutely awesome, crazy, but awesome, went back in to save his dog. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to save his dog. Dog's name was Hammer. He lost consciousness, woke up at the hospital, spent about a week at the hospital because of smoke inhalation. His story is absolutely insane. There's a bunch of videos of him like waking up and talking to the people and being glad that his parents are alive, but he lost his dog, but he wouldn't be alive. Nobody in that house would be alive if it wasn't for his dog. And you can check on my socials. Like, I've posted a bunch of videos. I made a bunch of videos on him because I absolutely love Mark. He's fucking awesome. But what's even more awesome about this man is last week the UFC had him over. It was UFC 300, big deal because 300, right? So they make a big event. They had him give what they call the badass belt, like the baddest motherfucker belt. And in post interview, he was talking to he was talking with not the audience but journalists, right? That were asking him questions, and one of the journalists called him a hero. He just blah 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 hero and continued asking. Like, he didn't ask him how he felt about it. He just called him a hero. Mark is so humble that he's like, I'm not comfortable being called a hero. Can you imagine? This guy saved both of his parents, tried to save his dog, lost consciousness, spent a week in the hospital. Now he's being called a hero, and he's like, yeah, I'm uncomfortable. This is the exact type of dudes. This is the exact type of dude that inspires guys like me. That should inspire people like you. Because that dude is an American hero. And guys like Mark Coleman remind me this very, very simple fact. Not all heroes wear capes. Man, half an hour goes by fast. Very happy to be doing this every Friday. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to take the most popular content that I created that week, and I'm going to talk about it just like I did today. So thank you for being on the feed. Thank you for encouraging me. Thank you for your likes, your comments, everything that you guys do on my content. I really appreciate you because without you, none of this is possible. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for you guys. So make sure, if you like this, to like, to comment, to share, to follow. And until next time.